Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video we're going to be covering 5 broken builds that are also really fun to use in the DLC. These are all new weapons in the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree for Elden Ring, and there's a lot of information in this video on how to build around them at rune level 150. So sit back, relax, and watch a good video on 5 different awesome builds you could use that do a lot of damage. Later in this video, we're also going to show you a strategy for taking down those furnace giants quickly. You can take these down in 2 minutes or less with the strat. It's excellent. While these aren't ranked, we're going to start with the most broken one on here, and this is Bloodfiend's arm. People have been asking me to do a build for this one. Of course they are, because the posture damage and bleed buildup on it is absolutely insane. If you are looking for a really good strength and arcane build in the DLC, Bloodfiend's arm is going to be perfect for you. At 45 arcane, you'll have 201 bleed buildup. If you add in something like Braggart's Roar, which has the Roar multiplier for status effects, you'll get somewhere between 400 and 600 bleed buildup per hit. A truly incredible amount of bleed buildup. And what is that status effect multiplier I just talked about? Well, on roars, depending on the size of the weapon, on the charge hits, the alter charge hits, you'll get 2 to 3 times the status buildup on the weapon. It's pretty amazing, and it works really well for an awesome weapon like this one. We'll show you where to get this beast of a weapon too. This is one you absolutely need to try. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know. For equipment, we have Bloodfiend's arm with Braggart's Roar and Blood Affinity. Any seal for buffs, you could check out the armor set there. Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman, Roar Medallion. We have the Spike Crack tier, and we also have the Faith tier too. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 28 Endurance, we have 40 Strength. When we're two-handing, that's going to give us 60 Strength, which is awesome, good for the AR on this weapon. 25 Faith with the Faith tier, 45 Arcane to hit that Arcane soft cap for the bleed buildup. Of course, for our buffs, we're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength. In a second here, we're also going to show you where to get Bloodfiend's arm. You can grab this one really early in the DLC. And where can you get this one? You can get this at Cliff Road Terminus. It's not far from the starting point. You have to farm it. The Bloodfiend type enemies that wield it will drop this, and I recommend grabbing this one early on in Shadow of the Erdtree. Alright, the next one up here we got is the Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword. I know that's a lot of words for one sword, but this has an awesome Ash of War that has a follow-up attack that does massive magic damage and physical damage too, along with posture damage. And we're going to take on a tough enemy in the Ulcerated Tree Spirits that are in the Church District entrance for Shadow Keep. There's not too many spoilers in this video as I've been trying to keep them out, but once you drain the water in Shadow Keep, you'll have to fight several of these, or at least there will be several Ulcerated Tree Spirits at the bottom. Yeah, if you've been to the Church District, by the way, and there's still a whole bunch of water, well, you can drain that water, and there's a whole bottom section that has a ton of items. Well, not a ton of items, but a fairly decent amount of items, including a new seal and some other items you can grab that are relatively important. So be sure to drain the water if you haven't in the Church District, as it's optional, and it's definitely something you should do. Alright, back to this epic fight at hand. By the way, the Ash of War on this weapon does good amount of posture damage too. It has a long range too with the reach, the charge for it, and then that follow-up hit does magic damage, and it has a pretty good AoE on it too. Also, who is enjoying the DLC so far? If you're enjoying Shadow of the Erdtree, if you're having trouble, comment your thoughts below. Let me know where you're at in Shadow of the Erdtree, how far you've gotten, and how much you're enjoying the DLC so far. For me, it's excellent, and it's absolutely a 10 out of 10. Alright, in a second here, we're going to jump into equipment stats. Everything you need to know to make a powerful Ancient Meteoric Greatsword build. Of course, we have this weapon at preferably plus 10. We have it plus 9. Any seal for buffs. We hit 51 poise. Arsenal Charm plus 1. Shard of Alexander. Magic Scorpion Charm. Ritual Swords Talisman. We have the Magic tier and Faith tier for buffs. And now we're going to be going into stats on this build. This build is also a Strength and Arcane build. We have 40 Strength, we have 45 Arcane. The Arcane, by the way, is for the magic part of it, though it's very slight as far as the scaling goes there. We have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 26 Endurance. We are using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And where do you get the Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword? That's a lot of words for one weapon. We get that at the Ruin Forge of Starfall Pass. That's kind of like one of the bigger mines that's in the DLC. It's after Castle Enzies, kind of at the start of the mid-game, and you can grab this one relatively early too. Yeah, there should only be one boss in your way, the Castle Enzi's boss. And the next one up here is we have Milady or Milady, or however you say it. We have it in flame art, and we have an awesome Ash of War on it to do a lot of fire damage and make the best of its fast Greatsword moveset. That Ash of War, by the way, is Flame Skewer, and that I believe you can get somewhere in Shadowkeep. I don't have the clip for that one. I'm not sure where I picked it up, but it's a really cool Ash of War. I definitely recommend trying this one out. It has an initial spear-like thrust and then a follow-up flame attack, and it also coats your sword in fire damage. Truly an epic combination, given that the light greatsword moveset is relatively fast for the amount of AR you're getting. Once it's coated, we're getting over 700 AR and making the best of our flame art affinity and the additional fire damage the sword gets with the Ash of War Flame Skewer. We're going to jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And of course, we have Milady or Milady plus 25 Flame Art Affinity with Flame Skewer. We have Erdtree Seal. We have a random set of armor on. I ended up switching here to the helm that I liked and going for just 51 poise on this one. We have the Ritual Swords Talisman, Shard of Alexander. We have the Fire Scorpion Charm. We have Melissa's Prosthesis. And then we have the Flame Tier and Faith Tier as well. And for stats on this one, we have, of course, very high faith at 75 faith with the faith tier. So we're getting a good amount of damage in flame art. 60 vigor. We have 23 mind, 28 endurance, 20 strength, and 20 dexterity. We are going to be using Golden Vow and House Shaburi for this one. I think Flame Grant Me Strength technically could be better for the body buff because we're doing both physical and fire damage. Overall, this is a really good build, and I recommend trying this one out. It does a lot of damage. And now for the location of Milady or Milady. If somebody could say how that's actually pronounced, that would be nice, because I'm really not sure. You can grab it right there at Castle Enzi's at the castle front. You're going to go past. Eventually around, there's going to be a regular enemy and a dog, and a ladder you have to go up. It's in a chest. And you know me, I love faith builds, so the last one and this one are tied up my favorite. Now we have the Barbed Staff Spear, which is basically a holy machine gun and does massive damage. You can see on the hippo there, we got 9,000 damage. This is really easy to use, by the way, and can be spammed, and it's just a lot of holy damage. This is really an excellent weapon and an excellent Ash of War. And now we're just going to show the Margit and the Altless Plateau. And the reason I'm going to show this is because he's got around 20 or 40% holy resistance, so a decent amount of holy resistance. And we're still able to get a good amount of damage in. And this Ash of War is relatively quick, too, for the amount of damage that you get. Yeah, it is an amazing Ash of War. This is one, if you're a Faith build, that I recommend not missing out on. The Ash of War is going to scale entirely with your Faith stat because it's basically pure holy damage. So you're going to want to pick this one up if you have high Faith and go for the minimum stat requirements on the weapon. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Barbed Staff Spear plus 10. We have the Erdtree Seal plus 10. We hit 51 poise, of course. We have the Shard of Alexander. We have the Sacred Scorpion Charm. I was using the Crusade Insignia. That's new. Ritual Swords Talisman. Holy tier, and the Faith tier as well. And now we're going to jump into stats for this amazing Holy and Faith build. We have 60 Vigor, 23 Mind, 28 Endurance, 15 Strength, 25 Dexterity, and then of course we have High Faith at 70 Faith for that Ash of War. For this one, the best way to boost your damage through buffs are going to be Golden Vow, 15% more attack and defense, and then House Shaburi for the 25% generic additional damage, which is going to work great for the awesome amount of holy damage you get on the Ash of War. In this, the Barbed Staff Spear can be gotten at Dark Light Catacombs. This is the one you get through Shadowkeep, through the coffin there. If you want to look that up, the way to go through that opens that section of the map, the Abyssal Plains, and I believe the boss at the end of the catacombs drops it. Yeah, a little challenging to get that one, but well worth it. The next one up here, we're going to have two options for you for the Beast Claws. First, I want to show it off in Flame Art Affinity because I love Faith builds, and then of course we're going to show it as a Blood Flame Strength build too. Now, taking on Godric here is not going to be too difficult, even in Flame Art, because the successive attack power, as well as the quite literal firepower we have on this amazing Ash of War, can absolutely shred through his HP. Yeah, it's putting some of these weapons in Flame Art, or even Sacred Affinity, because it seems like Holy is now better for the DLC, right? It's a lot better than it was for the base game, gives you a lot of versatility, a lot of variety. A build like this, by the way, you could also throw in Incantations too, and add on to it more. Alright, in a second here, we're going to jump into equipment stats. Everything you need to know to make a cool Flame Art build here. And we have the Beast Claws with Savage Claws, of course, and Flame Art Affinity. We have the Erdtree Seal plus 10. We hit 51 poise. For our talismans, we have the Wingsword Insignia, we have the Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, we have Millicent's Prosthesis, and then we have the Flame tier, and of course the Faith tier as well to get a lot of damage out of Flame Art. Let's jump into stats for this one. And for stats on this one, of course, once again, we're another Faith build here. We have 75 Faith, 20 Dexterity, 20 Strength. We have 28 Endurance. We have 23 Mind. We have 60 Vigor. By the way, I recommend 60 Vigor for every build in the DLC. By the way, we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength here. Flame Grant Me Strength is better when you're doing fire and physical damage, specifically over Hal. It also has lower requirements, so it does work better here and probably for the earlier build with the additional 20% fire and physical damage. And next up now, of course, we have the Bleed Beast Claws, which are really powerful, do a ton of bleed buildup, and a lot of physical damage too. So these are clearly best in heavy affinity with Bloodflame Blade, in my opinion. Now, of course, you can put them in blood affinity and get more bleed buildup, but if you want the highest amount of physical damage and a good amount of bleed too, it really does work excellent with Bloodflame Blade and that A in heavy affinity. We have the Beast Claws with an A in strength, and then we have Savage Claws, of course. Any seal for buffs. You can check out the armor set there. A lot of poise on this one. Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Shard of Alexander. We have the Wingsword Insignia, Millicent's Prosthesis. And then we have the Thorny tier, and of course our Faith tier for buffs. And then for stats on this one, which we're going to jump into now, we're of course a strength build, so we have 75 strength, a fairly good amount there, 60 vigor, 20 mind, 25 endurance, we have 20 dexterity, 25 faith with the Faith tier, 10 arcane for Bloodflame Blade. And for our buffs, we're using Golden Vow, and of course we're using Flame Grant Me Strength. You could use Hellish Rebirth too with higher faith, might be a little more damage because we're not doing a lot of fire damage, and Bloodflame Blade. And where do you get the Beast Claws? You can get this weapon very early in the DLC. It's right there on the map, just south of Graveside Plain. There's going to be an NPC-type enemy you got to take down, and then you'll grab those. Alright, now on to our strategy for the Furnace Fire Giants, essentially what they are. I don't know the exact name or title on these guys, but there is a specific build I like using for them, and that is going to be Pest Threads, which does massive damage to them and can actually break them fairly easily. So after testing, there seems to be a couple different things that go on with these guys. Now, this is really interesting to note. Poise damage doesn't seem to matter as much. What matters more is how much damage you're doing to them. If you could stack up a lot of damage quickly, they're much easier to break. Then instead of going with posture damage and depending on poise damage, I don't know how much poise they have or if it's an amount of damage to take them down, but it seems easier, at least in my opinion, to go for as much damage as you can get on them as possible, and they seem to go down quicker, and then the whole process is easier. So I do get lost here for a second, but generally speaking, you got to find their faceplate, and then you're going to get in a critical hit on the faceplate, and when you do, it's going to do massive damage. After that, they still will have some HP. In some cases, you'll have to break them a second time, but if you're using Pest Threads, you may not have to. Yeah, you can see the amount of damage you can get on the critical there. It's amazing. And then after that, just continue to use Pest Threads. If you could hit the faceplate a couple times, even the better, because they'll take additional damage, but then go right back to their feet. And make sure you jump on the fire stomps. The regular stomps with each individual foot could simply be jumped over. It's very easy to do. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, the strategies I've seen. I heard people already told me they're using like fire pots and going above them and such. It's pretty crazy, but I like Pest Threads here. We have Erdtree Seal plus 10. We have the Blasphemous Blade. We have the Jellyfish Shield for more damage. You don't need that mask, by the way. I just had it on from a previous build. We obviously hit 51 poise here. Then we have the Ritual Swords Talisman. We have the Flox Canvas Talisman. Blade of Mercy I was using. Arsenal Charm plus 1 or Great Jar's Arsenal. And then we have the Opaline Horror tier as well as the Faith tier. So once again, a Faith build here. We have 60 Vigor, 23 Mind. We have 28 Endurance on this build. You're going to want a good amount of Endurance for Pest Threads, by the way. We have 20 Strength. We have 15 Dexterity. We have 75 Faith. Of course, we're using the Faith tier, so our base Faith is 65. And then we're going to be using Golden Vow and Hellish Rebirth to increase the damage of Pest Threads. Pest Threads, by the way, you can grab from Gowry. He's in Celia, Town of Sorcery, throughout that questline and Millicent's questline. I recommend grabbing that one for sure. Couple of thanks here, by the way, to my mods on Discord who've been helping out a ton. I want to thank Caustic. I want to thank Cheeseman. I want to thank Crucible Bro, Din7, G, No Hour, if I said that right. And then we have Melody, Sida, Marital, Divinity, Red, and the entire Discord community. It's been great. Thanks for watching this one. Definitely be sure to sub if you haven't subbed yet for more awesome Elden Ring content. I'm going to be covering Shadow of the Erdtree like crazy pretty much throughout the entire summer. I can't wait. There's still so much more to do. Also, for anybody that does super thanks or joins as a member or works their way up in Discord, I'll be doing shout outs and whatnot as well. I've been doing that for a long time. I really appreciate the mod help. It's been busy, especially on weekends. Everybody in the Discord's been awesome. Definitely be sure to sub and have a wonderful day.